Yes, family tree, welcome to Movement Decoded. Today we're going to be breaking down the Macaco. A skill, an acrobatic movement stemming from capoeira that has been taught 1,000,001 times on the internet in various ways. Some very good, some very not so good. And the reason why I'm doing this one, to be honest, is just a little slice of the information that I've learned from it without trying to mince. I'm really going to be transparent as I can with how it felt quite inaccessible for me when I was first learning the skill. Didn't really know how to work around it. It's very unrefined, very rudimental, to now being able to do it quite comfortably, and also doing it with students and friends and seeing what's worked for them and what I wish I knew when I was first learning it, and just throwing it in. And I want you to take the different drills and skills with this, the build up, like you would for a pick and mix. And there's going to be some movements and exercises that suit you, and there's going to be some that don't. And whatever feels the most rewarding or I can't even think of the word, at least just more positive or progressive for you, take that and just layer up through. This is going to be a progressive session, so we're going to start off with an activation, not really a warm-up, but an activation into the areas of the body that need to be fired up for this. And then I'm just going to layer up until we eventually come into the Macaco, and you just find your spectrum and range for you to practice on, really. Before we get into it, there's going to be 3 different movements that are actually so imperative for not only the Macaco, but the just arching acrobatics in general. And the first thing that we want to be quite comfortable with is our cartwheel. This here, to be able to feel this orientation of going upside down and back up again, will really help with the mechanics of the Macaco. Another layer on top, being somewhat comfortable in a handstand position here. Doesn't have to be this sort of perfect line. It can be a little bit, even if it's like this, and you can kind of hold it to be able to have this awareness of the body, could be really, really useful as well. Doesn't even have to be held. It can kind of be sort of like, if we kind of have this as a handstand, more than enough to do this. And another thing as well, which is quite important for our arching acrobatics, is being comfortable in a backbend position. From here, but with the hands on the ground. And it doesn't have to be this full gymnastic bridge, but maybe just kind of lifting the head, being comfortable around here, maybe just kind of being able to breathe in a little bit of a backbend. My backbends aren't crazy today. I feel very, very tight. But yeah, any range from here will really help. So those 3 layers, the more adept we become in those 3, the more they start to cross-adapt into so many variations. So Macaco can be quite challenging at first, but once we break through the fecundity of the difficulty of it, it really then just opens us up to so many variations as well. So those 3 layers could be really, really helpful to progress onto this and many other things. So for a little bit of activation, I hope you're kind of warm already. Some of this stuff isn't a warm-up. It's more an activation. It can serve a little bit to create that heat, but make sure you don't get injured. Make sure you're prepped and warmed up in the wrists and things. The first thing we're going to do is crab or squat rocks. So we're going to come down into this spider shape and then just push back up and just feel the momentum from squat to the hands and back up. Do these for as long as you want to. I'm just showing the exercises for you to sequence as you want to. You can change direction, make sure we're doing both sides. Like so. The next thing that we're going to play with is our single arm scapular push. And we've got kind of 360 degrees of directions we can place our hand, but also play with the depth from the feet to the reach. So It can be really random. I place the hand down, shoulder over the wrist, and I'm pushing from the shoulder, trying to lift the hips as high as I can. And then coming back down into squat, and then just pick another direction. Shoulder over the wrist, push. Just give a few examples here. It can be even through that back line, shoulder over the wrist, push and squeeze. And just let the body orientate as it wants to. 3 key points. Hand squeezing, shoulder over the back of the hand, lifting the hips nice and high. Do that as much as you want to, as much as you feel necessary. And then the last thing we'll come into is our ipsilateral hovers, same side hovers. So we're going to be in this reverse hip bridge position, single arm. So I'm lifting up high into the shape here. Again, the key shoulder and overstate is a lot for me. Shoulder over the wrist, at least on top. The trailing arm will create a bit of tension and reach to help counterbalance. We want to reach through this arm. And then the opposite foot, I come onto the big toe, I dab it down. Maybe from the dabs we come into the lift off. So I'm reaching through this top arm, thigh pulling up and trying to maintain that control here. I've shown on my dominant side. I should actually practice on both sides more. So I'll demonstrate the other one. Yeah, I think when I first started learning this movement, I just stayed on the dominant side. I think if you're here, it's really important to do both sides because my left side now really does have to catch up. It's way more of less of an inclination for me to want to train this side. So I guess you guys are my accountability partners right now. So pushing through the shoulder, dabbing the toe. I already feel a lot more unstable here, so I'm fighting a lot more for that control. Notice I'm not shying away from the wrist and kind of sinking my hips down. We're losing a lot of it here. I'm trying to keep up high, shoulder over the wrist, reach through the arm, thigh in towards the belly. And pushing there. That is way, way weaker than the other side. So those, a little bit of activation, a little bit of warm-up to come into the juicy bits now. So from here, what have we got next? I've actually got notes here, so I'm not as unhinged today. Okay, our single arm hip lift. So from that ipsilateral hover, we're going to do the same movement, a little bit more dynamic. These are the three key components of this now, of the macaco, is really going to show up. It's going to be hip squeeze, shoulder over the wrist, trailing arm tension, and reach, finding this opposing line of tension from the feet to the hands. So as I lift up, squeeze the glutes, shoulder over the wrist, and reach through the hand and back down. Lift, all of those 3 lock in and back down. We must coordinate here in the foundation because when the skill gets a little bit more difficult, when we start hopping, it's very easy to lose one of the 3. We kind of lose that capacity for coordination. So make sure all 3 are dialing in and we have a real integrity just in the warm-up and the foundations. Hip squeeze, shoulder over the wrist, hand reach, and back down. And again, I'm just demonstrating on the other side so I can get a little bit of a training session in. I need to practice what I preach because I don't do this on this side as much, unless I am teaching it. So squeeze, shoulder, reach, and back down. Coolies. So, sorry about that. Next thing. Now this is one of the ones that I'm going to say doesn't work for everyone. It worked for me, personally, and I've tried to throw it in classes, I've shown my friends this, and it seems impossible for some other people. And if anything, it deters some people a little bit away from, it makes it feel way more inaccessible because just how difficult this is. Like, we're just at the warm-up and this is this hard. I'm never getting this move. But it works, it's worked for some people. I've shown some people this move and it clicks, shown others and it's just not worked. So this is one I'm gonna throw in for you to explore with. But don't be too disheartened if it's difficult because it's not the be-all and end-all. We're going to do a dynamic knee tuck. So it's the same use that 3, hips, shoulders, reach. But now all I'm doing is hopping, pulling the thighs in towards the chest. So I'm going, bop, bop, bop. I make the sound because it makes it easier. Okay, on to the other side. So same thing, I don't even know if I can even do it on this side, to be honest. It's one I don't use often now. So, bop, a lot weaker. Bop, bop. I'm just doing 3. So that, feel free to, feel free to give that a little bit of a go. Again, if it feels too difficult, try it and then pick and mix, move on. If you do want to try it but a little bit less physically demanding, we can do it but keeping the legs dangling and the hips active. So we can go boom, boom, boom. And I'm focusing there from back to boom, I guess. Glute squeezing, shoulder pushing, arm reaching. This is the magic 3, locked in. See if I can do it on the weaker side. Hips, hips, hips. I'm really squeezing the glutes to fire it up. There's those drills there. Our single arm hops. Now we're going to come into the rotation of the chest, which actually starts to let the movement feel a little bit more macaco-y. It's going to be hand coming down behind. This time we don't have to focus so much on this for now, because we're mapping something else, like the orientation of the chest. So what I'm doing is I'm hopping and rotating round to try again on the other side. Lift, hop, and I'm just turning 180 back on myself. So from another angle, I'm lifting up, but just rotating round to land complete 180 degrees. So I lift, and we're really starting to map the strength of the rotation of the shoulder and the chest. Ooh, what's next? Yeah, we're just going to layer into this. So I'm going to use a little bit of a marker here to help. You can use, if you don't have something like this, just be creative, grab something. Or you can actually use lines on the floor. If you've got kind of like soft mats and you've got lines, you can use any marker on the floor to give you an indicator for where to hop. So what we're going to do here, exactly the same as those little baby macaco hops, same thing, but this time, instead of rotating around myself here, I'm actually just going to try to straddle over the strap. So I'm using the strap as a marker, so I can just aim. Getting the feet over into the straddle. And again, here, same thing. I'm trying to hop over, straddle. So we can do these and just kind of get used to the driving power. Don't forget the magic 3. We know what they are by now. I'm just going to refer to it as the magic 3. Push. That starts to feel okay. Let's take it up a notch. This time, instead of straddling the strap, we're going to try and beat the marker. Can we get past the strap a bit further each time? So from this, the magic 3, can I come over the strap? It's nice to train both sides. So reach over the strap. Again, what's really helping is this arm pulling from there. It is helping me come over, and you just want to get the distance more and more each side. And coming down, reach. And it can be unrefined in the legs, doesn't have to be pretty for now. Use the reach of the arms, power of the hips. I think that's it for that. All right. So now, what we can play with is cartwheels. We're going to come back to cartwheels again. this motion, which is going to get us used to placing both hands on the ground. The only difference now, as you've just seen, regular cartwheel, we either enter sideways or we enter front on. This time we're going to actually just enter in the hips up. So we're going to enter from sort of an entry into the macaco from here. But I'm just going to think cartwheel for now. So from here, as I reach, I'm just going to close across the face and just tell myself cartwheel. And I'm really driving over. This one, I'm going to give a caveat here. This one can be one of the stickier ones as well. Some people find this just pulls them straight out of this real nice chest opener. For some people it works and it kind of bridges the gap into the fear of going over or the unknown of it. And for some people, it just feels clumsy and awkward. So play with it, explore with it, try it on. If it doesn't fit, then move on. But yeah, I'm just making sure to start away and I'm just letting it bleed round into familiarity of the cartwheel. So I'm reaching across the face into that variation there. Rep those out. Using the line, hopping over, is going to get us used to the inversion a bit more and the push of the shoulder. Doing the cartwheel is going to get us familiar with placing the hand down to the ground and reaching for the floor. So the next layer to add on top of that, which can be a little bit of a bump up into the full macaco itself. Sometimes it's a larger bridge to cross. That takes a bit of time. But what we're going to do here, magic 3 is so important. So glute squeeze, shoulder, reach. The only difference is I'm not thinking cartwheel so much and reaching across the face. I'm bringing my arm straight behind my ear. So the trajectory of this tension, this tensegrity, beautiful word, this integrity of tension in the arm is going to help create the whole movement of the body. So this reach really important now to come behind the ear and trying to reach towards the ground. So can prep and behind the ear, and then the macaco starts to show up. I can't really say too much on top of that. It's like really now committing to the magic 3 with more focus on that reaching out. I'm going to try it on the weaker side, so it might actually be a bit more clumsy, but we'll see. I'm really going to try and practice what I'm preaching here and use those magic 3. Oh, behind the ear. That was probably better than my other side. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, magic 3. The more I commit this behind the ear, then it comes up very beautifully. If this feels difficult, just take it down a notch, find the spectrum, the layer that suits you, and just build up. This is a progressive video. You can come back to this, come back to your session as much as you need to. Behind the ear, and macaco starts to show up. Anything to add on top of that? What can help is actually using, I'm going to check this is still filming. This is just what we do. Yes, we are. Beautiful. What we're going to do is, it can be quite difficult sometimes, generating the force and the power from here. It's like, it just gets scary and it's like we go. Yeah. Probably just because we haven't refined that neural capacity to fire up into it. Or we're just losing, now that the skill's getting more open and the final product, it's harder to coordinate everything without practice. So maybe you're thinking hips drive, but your arm's being a bit lazy, and it kind of doesn't take you. Maybe we're thinking reach the arm, but I forget to pop the hips. And then it's like, there. And it just takes time. Sometimes we do 1 out of 3. Then maybe we're like, okay, arm reach, hip pop. Then 2 out of 3 start to marry up. But if I pop my hips and reach the arm, then I forget the shoulder. Oh, felt so far away. So we have to marry up all those 3. But even then it's hard to generate the power. So we're going to actually take a step into it, we're going to compress in to rebound out. So what's really worked well with some of my friends and students that have been very close but not quite there is actually just taking a step. So as I step into a squat, I use this to rebound out. And again, sometimes even that's a bit challenging to time, but we're stepping down. Oh, that was a crud one. But we're stepping down into it. I forgot to do the arm reaching there and the hip pop. I felt that. So again, using that rebound, we're coming in to be able to bounce out. I'm going to try the other side. Bloody hell. So squat, hand, shoulder, swing. So squat, hand. That was a bit better. So that's the progression into Macaco. Might work. I'll throw in some variations now. But yeah, if you liked what you saw so far, subscribe to your boy. Let's keep this co-created space. Please feel free to leave a comment. If there's any other tricks and tips that you know of, or if you tried something that was different to what I've explained, write it in the comments and let the rest of the movement decoders latch onto that and see if they can use that too. And I'll welcome any constructive feedback and criticism. If you liked what you saw, give it a like. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Give us a little reason why maybe as well, and I'll do my best to help deliver for the future videos. And yeah, here's some variations to try.